First thing is, can you see the relationships that are available to you? Number one, that's the most important thing, because if you can't see them, then you'll never leverage them, right? Number two is, then can you leverage them effectively? I agree with you, Leah, that you got to pay into the bank so much more than you can withdraw. So much more. It might be like 99 to 1. It might be something like that.
Welcome back to the Thoughts on Selling podcast. Today it is my absolute delight and pleasure to have Drew Sechrist join me to talk about all things sales. Drew, welcome aboard.
Hi, Lee. Thanks for having me. Great to be here.
Good to have you on board. Drew, I'm going to pose the first question to you, and then we'll get into the dialogue. Who is Drew Sechrist?
I've had 30 seconds to think about it. Drew Sechrist is currently the co-founder and CEO of Connect the Dots. He's a former Salesforce early employee. Saw the first decade of Salesforce going from 0 to $1 billion in revenue, which is a pretty incredible ride, and took those lessons and put those into what I'm doing now with Connect the Dots. And kind of have an interesting nomadic lifestyle. So I'm split my time between Miami, which is where I am right now, San Francisco pretty frequently, and Belgrade, Serbia pretty frequently.
So Drew, you've seen the sales industry change quite a bit from the early days at Salesforce, when no software was a mantra, and a t-shirt. I still have one that Mark gave me 100 years ago. You've seen it change, and we've seen how buyers have changed. We've seen how sellers have had to change. We've read the Jolt effect, and now we know that buyers now have all the information they need, and they're incapable of making decisions. And I think you're on a path to fix that.
Fingers crossed.
So let's talk about that. What's your current view of the field enterprise salesperson today? Is it better or worse than it was 20 years ago?
Yes.
Harder or easier? More fun, less fun?
Yes to that one, and yes to the third one too. I would say yes.
There we go.
It's better and worse. It's harder and easier. It's just different things are harder, different things are easier. Man, it's interesting. What I want to start out my career now as a seller. I'll tell you one thing I wouldn't want to do. If I was starting out my career now, I would not want to go into the world where it's a remote first environment. And I think that's not really coming to an end, but there's a new equilibrium that's happening. So during COVID, obviously everybody went remote because otherwise we would pass each other the virus, and that'd be bad. So that's over, and then everybody stayed in this remote first environment for a long time. Candidly, it was a employee's market for a while, where the employee could say, I'll just shop my services wherever I want to go. And if you don't let me work from home, then I'm not going to work for you.
Yeah, I need to be within 3 miles of the trailhead in Moab, so screw you.
Yeah, I get it. There's a lot of positive upside to that situation for human beings and for our environment. It is a little silly, hop on the highway and burn a bunch of fossil fuels to drive up to the city and go to your work and then drive home, and all the dry cleaning bills and the time wasted on personal hygiene, all that stuff. Although I don't think personal hygiene is a waste of time. I think it's a good thing. But
once a week, whether I need it or not.
Yeah, exactly. But I would hate to be coming into this world of enterprise sales or B2B sales and not be in person with people, because I know how much I moved from the East Coast from North Carolina to San Francisco to work for Salesforce in 1999. And they plunked me into this office, and there weren't many of us. There were only employee number 36. So it was a small office, but we were all sitting next to each other. Mark Benioff was there, and the other co-founders of the company, and the early employees. Everybody was more experienced than I was. I was probably the least experienced person in that office, which was awesome for me because it was scary. I thought they were going to figure out that I didn't know anything and I was useless and get rid of this guy. But that was also motivating for me to learn things fast so that I could be valuable and not get fired and not get sent out, because I liked San Francisco and I didn't want to go back to the East Coast.
And you had all that tribal knowledge to slurp up.
Bingo. And it was great. I learned so much by sitting next to I could rattle off the names of the people that were in that office with me, and they're very impressive people now. They've gone on to do really impressive things. And I got to learn from them. And it was great. If I were sitting at home and I was just a remote person who's like, here's your territory, Drew, and here's your call script, and here are your tools, and go do it, and we'll have a couple of hangouts online each week, I wouldn't have learned any of that stuff. And I think I probably would have been fairly useless, and maybe I would have gotten fired. But instead, I got to learn from the best and via osmosis, and that was incredible. I love that. Now, I am happy to see that there is this RTO, return to office thing that's happening, and a lot of younger, earlier in their career folks do want to be in an office now, and I think that's a great thing. Is it better or worse, harder or easier? I would say it's harder if you're not going to be in an office with somebody to learn from, but I do think the pendulum's swinging back. People are going into offices, and you should. If you are early in your career and you're listening to this, go get a job in an office and
Yeah.
learn from the people who've been doing this longer than you, and pick a really great company. That's the other thing I'd suggest. I happened to be lucky in picking Salesforce. I think I chose well, but I also got there was some luck of the draw in that one too, because you want to surround yourself with people that you want the osmosis to be good,
Right.
things that you're picking up from them. So that's one thing that could be harder if you're not in person. That's probably one of the biggest things. The other thing that's harder is everything's changing so fast that it's like you could learn a set of skills 20 years ago and know that those skills are going to be the skills that you needed to survive. And you could be like, okay, I'm working on this set of skills and they're relatively static skills. That's not the way it is anymore, I don't think. I think you have to constantly be learning really fast. Things are changing so rapidly. So I think that's a difficult thing, but it's also an awesome thing. Things are changing so rapidly in a really awesome way. If you can figure out how to ride that wave, you can harness so much power as an individual in sales. And so I think it's great, but it's also hard because you have to figure out, and there's no one place to look for all the information about what you should be leveraging. You got to look all over the place and be your own collector of your education.
As a case in point, I'm doing some coaching with an SDR, Shay, who just finished his first year and number 2 in the company. Go Shay. He and I were talking earlier today, and he said, I really want to be able to pick up what's going on with the next set of conversations. He goes, and I don't have all the time in the world to listen to all the gong recordings. And I said, can you take the transcripts and just throw them into Gemini and have Gemini do a summary? He goes, yeah. So you take 60 or 100 hours of calls and in 5 minutes have the top 5 issues that customers bring up. And here's what works and here's what doesn't work in response. We couldn't do that a year ago.
No.
Maybe 6 months ago.
Yep. That's a perfect example. If you're not paying close attention to it, these new capabilities will happen and you won't be taking advantage of them yet. And there's a lot of opportunity costs because you might eventually find out about it 3 or 6 or 12 months later. And then, you lost 3 or 6 or 12 months.
Here's a personal story, Drew. I'm writing a book and I'm about halfway through. My co-writer is named Claude. Most of the people I talk to say, can you write a book with an AI? So, sure. You're not going to tell anyone, are you? Oh, sure. That's going to be a marketing differentiator for about 5 minutes.
There are all these tools to AI your output because everybody's so ashamed that they used AI to write something. And I'm actually starting to stop caring.
Yeah.
Because what, you think somebody's going to go do something without using AI now? Like, why would you go? There might be some creative endeavors in your life, some artistic endeavors where maybe you don't want AI involved. If you're doing business, why would you not be leveraging AI for everything at all times? Now, I am sick of the M dashes. I don't need to see all these M dashes all over the place, but otherwise,
you'll get over it.
Pretty useful.
Yeah, you'll get over it. They're everywhere. You'll get over it. The M dash needs a good PR campaign. Right now, it's gotten a lot of negative press.
I agree.
I'll have Gemini write something up.
Yeah.
Exactly. This is the classic M dash. This is a new and improved. I actually asked ChatGPT to comment on a podcast episode, which, by the way, I used ChatGPT to write the show notes. And I said, hey, Chat, what do you think of this show, which was all about AI agents? And it gave me a pretty balanced response. It was very interesting. So they're taking over. At some point, we're just going to hand them the keys to the car and the house and everything else. So we're done.
Skynet.
We'll just be Tribble, passed around by the AIs.
Well, let's just hope we make the AI so that it's a very nice master of us pets.
So it's interesting. I was thinking as you were talking about return to office, from a selling standpoint, particularly in enterprise sales, it's really difficult to build rapport. It's really difficult to build trust over Google Meet. And early on, not turning on your camera was a disqualifier. Now everyone does. Almost everyone does. You can't really build trust over a long distance feed. What's the metric? There's a number above which you can't close a deal if you haven't broken bread. It's like 1.2. This has been studied over and over. But if you were doing a $5 million deal, you will have had dinner with these people, right? No question.
Yeah, that number's probably gone up over time. During COVID, that probably changed, but there is merit to this concept for sure.
Yeah, there's some other standard tests of it. Is the economic buyer texting back?
Yes.
If they're not texting back, there's no deal.
Yeah. And if your communication's not via text at a certain point, that's an indicator that you're not really there with that person. So you start out on email or LinkedIn, then you move up to email, then you move up to text or WhatsApp.
And so there's the building of trust, there's the tribal knowledge and the sharing, the learning from folks. At about the same time you started at Salesforce, I did some work with a services firm and I said to the CEO, so do you want me in the office full time? And he said, absolutely. And I said, why? I had a different lifestyle in mind. And he said, because it's the hallway conversations that matter.
Yeah.
He said it's the impromptu meetings between the meetings where all the work actually gets done. He was spot on.
I don't know if you read the book on the biography of Steve Jobs, but a lot of his design of the Apple office space was really intentional to get people from different parts of the organization to have to walk past each other and see each other in the hallways so that those conversations could happen. It's so true. That was the story of my decade at Salesforce. That happened all the time, and it just made everything happen faster and spurred a bunch of new ideas into existence. And yeah, I'm a believer. There are a ton of tools for sellers to use now. But there's this like fundamental thing that needs to happen in sales and selling, and it's this relationship building. And there's nothing that really does that. There's no tool for that. And I also think that there are two things here. One is there's so many tools now. Holy moly, so many tools. And it's crazy. People can vibe code a new tool that could be quite useful. But there it is. It's another tool. And that, yeah, another tool. Like we had too many tools 5 years ago. Maybe 15 years ago, we didn't have too many tools. Maybe you were like, oh, I need a tool. Let me go see what kind of tool I can go find. Now everybody's like, please, no more tools. Like
10 years ago, the map of the sales stack had over 1,000 brands in it. So it hasn't gotten any smaller yet. So it's great, Drew. All these tools, it can make all of us wicked smart. It can prepare us for any conversation. But who do we talk to? How do we know the person to talk to?
there are tools for that. There are tools that'll tell you like, here's our total addressable market, here's our scored list of accounts, and here's our ICP and the personas that we want to get to. And you can basically click a button and be like, these are all the 47,000 people that you should talk to. I think the real question is, how do you talk to them? Why would they want to talk to you? Because everybody else in the world's trying to talk to them too, or lots of other people are trying to talk to them too. In sales, who you know matters an awful lot. And when you start out in sales early in your career, you don't really know anybody, typically. Now, some things change. Like I definitely worked with some people early on in my career because of their family relationships. They knew people. They did have some relationships. And it is interesting now seeing, I'm old enough that like my friends' kids are now coming into the workforce and they're doing the jobs that we were doing early in our career. And they actually do have a pretty good network because their moms and dads and aunts and uncles and whatever had these jobs and they have networks and they're like, I don't know, it's relevant. It's super relevant now. But who you know does matter an awful lot because that can get you a meeting and it can get you goodwill, which can ultimately get you deals, get you transactions, which gets you more relationships, which gets you more network, which gets you more goodwill to leverage. And so
Right.
it is like there is a snowball effect here
A
over
virtuous circle.
as you do good things in your career and you help the
Yeah.
people, you make promises and you deliver on those promises, then you build up a lot of social capital that you can leverage. So this is one of the most important things in sales. And it was one of the most important things for me. I knew nobody west of the Mississippi when I moved to San Francisco in 1999.
Right.
Nobody. I was hired by Mark Benioff and the Salesforce team. And so immediately I had this kind of work family that all wanted to see me succeed because my success was their success.
Their network became your network.
Exactly. Bingo. That's it. Their network became my network immediately, overnight, like that. I went
Yeah.
from knowing nobody west of the Mississippi to having a pretty darn good network west of the Mississippi.
Yeah.
I figured that out, that this is going to be probably a difference maker between my success or failure, whether I could figure out how to leverage it. So I figured out how to leverage it. And I think also going back to the earlier comment about like return to office and virtual work, I think if you're early in your career and you don't have those, you're not in the office and you're not developing those personal relationships in person, it's really hard to crack in and leverage those relationships. You don't have the same level of trust. You don't have the hallway conversations to think for things to pop up and talk about it. However, what you can have now is technology that can help you collectively as a company see your entire network and have a heat map of all the relations, the strongest relationships that you can leverage collectively so that you can even have junior sellers who could have visibility to your board member having a strong relationship with the CFO at the company that you want to sell to. And then you can make intelligent asks of your board members so that you're not wasting that opportunity. You can get directly to the CFO of that company.
Just one Kevin Bacon away.
Exactly. You don't have to use all 6 degrees. Just 2 degrees and you're there. So there is technology that allows you to do that today. The one that everybody has thought of up until now, for the most part, is LinkedIn. And you look at LinkedIn and you see who knows who. It's good. I think we're all really happy that LinkedIn exists. But then there's something that's better for this specific use case, and that's called Connect the Dots. That's a product that our company has built. I think it's really important to be able to leverage your network. There's a downside if you don't have the personal relationships with the people that you're going to be leveraging to make those introductions. You need those personal relationships so they're going to feel less inclined to help you out. But there is also technology now that makes it easier for you to do this collectively as an organization. So goes back to, is it harder or easier? It's harder and it's easier now.
So you can get the map of who knows who, and then it's up to the individual to actually put it into gear and use it in a powerful way. And I think about this. If I go to a networking event and I go up to everyone and say, you got something for me? You got something for me? Are you buying yet? That's not networking. That's just shitty selling in a space that's supposed to be non-selling.
Yeah.
When you go to a networking event, the correct question is, what are you up to and what can I do for you? Because it's a matter of either making a deposit in the relationship bank account or making a withdrawal. There's a book that I read recently, The Third Door, and his perspective is it's not who you know, it's who knows you and what are they saying about you. And I think it's complementary to what we just described, because Charlie, the CFO at XYZ company, may not know me, so he's not saying anything about me, but my neighbor plays golf with him. And so I can get an introduction to him, but I have to shape that so that it's a warm introduction and it's accepted and seen as valuable.
You do. That's your responsibility.
Yeah. So even with the technology, it's our responsibility to use it for good. Are you finding that to be true?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. First thing is, can you see the relationships that are available to you? Number one, that's the most important thing, because if you can't see them, then you'll never leverage them, right? Number two is, then can you leverage them effectively? I agree with you, Leah, that like you got to pay into the bank so much more than you can withdraw, so much more. It might be like 99 to 1. It might be something like that in life. I'm no saint. I'm a nice person. I am a nice person. I think my mom will confirm that.
You're a good guy, Drew.
Yeah, that's what my mom says. Some point along the way, I read The Tipping Point a long time ago, back in probably, I don't know, I'm not sure if that was written in the 90s or 2000s, but it was early in my career at Salesforce. I read it.
Yeah.
And I was like, I get this a lot. Yeah. So I get it. I understand this a lot. I understand all the personas.
I saw Gladwell present on it not long after he wrote it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to see him talk about it. I think he's written his follow-up to it as well, which I got to go look into it. So there's a concept of a connector. That's the one who's putting, oh, hey, Lee, you should talk to so-and-so because you're going to go to Croatia that's sailing this summer, and they just came back from a trip, and they had a great time, and they know the best captain, and they know all the restaurants on which islands you should go to, and that kind of stuff. And that stuff for me is really natural. And
Yeah,
I think
you're a loose connector.
I love doing that. It gives me, I get paid in dopamine hits when I'm like, oh, I'm going to yenta these two people, and they're going to be happy that they know each other and something good came from it. I have some friends, some of them are dear friends, who try to monetize on too many different relationships. Like they're like omnidirectional monetizers. I don't want to be that way. Personally, I'm kind of a monodirectional monetizer. It's like I represented Salesforce for a long time, and I was like, hey, that's my thing. Everything else is free. I'm going to help you with everything else in the world. If you want Salesforce, you got to pay for it. And you should, because it's a great product.
That wasn't your role. That was Mark's role. It was company policy. No free cloud.
He forced us to make people pay for it. Yeah, he really did. I think you live a life of giving back to people and trying to open doors where you can, but also doing it judiciously. This is a really important part. Don't just try to open every door for everybody, because a lot of people want to get to a lot of people, and you have to have a bar. And the number one filter is, if I introduce somebody to you, Lee, it's going to be because I think you're going to benefit from it. Like
Right.
It's you.
Is it a deposit or an actual withdrawal?
Yeah. And I care about you primarily. Who am I making the introduction to? Is that going to be? And so if a good friend of mine says, hey, can you get me to Lee? And I think that the reason that they want to get to you is not something that you would find valuable, I'll say no. And I might coach him. I'm like, hey, I don't think Lee's going to be interested in that. Maybe Lee would be interested in this. Is that something you want to do? Or so I think that's the number one thing. If I, as a connector, am going to leverage, or if I'm going to leverage my relationship capital with Lee, then it's got to be in Lee's best interest.
Because otherwise your connection dries up.
Exactly. You're going to stop taking my calls because if hey, Lee, here are 5 people you should talk to today, none of which have anything valuable for you. They're just going to eat your time up. You're going to be like, put me on the block caller list or whatever. Yeah.
So it's interesting. The more we talk about technology, the more we realize there are social issues, there are relationship issues, there are moral issues potentially that come up of how do we use this to, at some level, the purpose of selling is not selling. The purpose of selling ultimately is actually buying. And in fact, it's not even buying. The purpose of selling is to create better outcomes for the customer.
Solve a problem that somebody's got.
Whether or not they necessarily know it, right?
Yeah.
Some problems are latent. Some problems aren't surfaced until a knowledgeable salesperson says, you could solve that problem by doing this. Problem?
Yep.
We didn't even know we had that problem, but now we need to move fast.
Early in my career, the first book I think that I read on like professional selling, B2B selling, when I got to Salesforce, I think it was the first one. It was solution selling.
Yep.
And solution selling is just basically all about being a consultant. And I loved it. I was like, that was my thing. I wanted to go in and see how your sales process was not good. Where is it not? Where is it inefficient? Where are you doing things wrong? And it was so fun for me to diagnose the problem and then prescribe the solution. And the solution back then invariably involved Salesforce, because Salesforce was just, it really did. It was an honest sale because
Everybody needed it.
it really needed it, and it was so simple to turn on, and it could configure it to your sales process. It was like a messianic fervor that we had. We're going to solve your problems. We know we can solve your problems,
And most
and
people
that's
were in agreement with that. Most sales leaders and other company leaders were in full agreement. We need to get a handle on all the information that's fallen on the floor that our salespeople are picking up, or I have no visibility, I have no predictability, I have no repeatability.
Bingo. Basically, that's the only way I operate, to be honest. I'm a binary seller. I know a lot of people out there who are very good and they can probably sell ice to Eskimos. I'm like, I don't think Eskimos need ice. I don't see that. I can't do it.
Yeah, it might be an interesting test, like sell me this pen, but they really don't really need it. It's not a problem they've got.
I'm not good at that. That's not my thing. My thing is like, I get super fired up if I'm like, that's a cool problem and I know how we can solve that thing. And we did that for a long time at Salesforce. Really, Salesforce was so fun because there were so many companies out there that really had problems that we could just come in and we can clean that up and we're going to make that so smooth and efficient. That's the kind of problem I like. Juicy problem where you can definitely solve it and go in and be a consultant.
Drew, I'll tell you a funny story. Earlier in my career, I had some spare time, as in I was between jobs. So I joined LL Bean to open up a company store in Mashpee on Cape Cod, about 10 minutes from where I live now, 17 minutes to be technical. And they shipped the store in on pallets. We built it. And then I spent about 4 months on the floor in the shoe department. And I'd always said, I can sell almost anything, but one thing I could never sell is something I'm not interested in, and that's shoes. And I find myself in the shoe department at LL Bean, and I loved it. Never brought work home. Customers never called saying their implementation didn't work or the contract had to be blah, blah, blah. But the other thing was, I wasn't selling shoes. I was selling an experience. Someone would come in and say, I need wool socks and some hiking boots. Sure. Where are you going? Finland, November. Have you thought about a base layer? No, what's a base layer? And $3,000 later, these people would be happy as clams because now they knew that their experience in Finland in November was taken care of. And I, as an hourly employee, I got my $12 an hour, so I was happy too. Seriously, but I enjoyed this solution selling experience.
That, by the way, reminds me, is a completely different approach to shoe selling. I just saw, Charles Kuralt, remember that guy?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
He did on the road. He did back in the 70s or maybe 80s. You should look at the greatest shoe salesman in the world. Some guy in, I think he's in Pennsylvania somewhere where I grew up. But this guy is a machine. You should watch the video on YouTube and compare and contrast with your experience.
Old school, I'm sure.
Yeah, he sold like 2 orders of magnitude more shoes than anybody else. It was like crazy. Yeah. This guy was a maniac.
So Drew, what should our listeners take away from this conversation other than the two of us are interesting wackadoodles?
I think that's the primary takeaway.
We did cover the evolution of sales. We didn't go all the way back to John Patterson at National Cash Register in the 1880s, but we did go quite a way back. The history is interesting because some things have changed, right? The technology available has changed, and some things haven't. It's still trust building and relationship building and figuring out who to talk to and how to efficiently get there. And I'll say it, taking care of people.
So I think about, and we've been dancing around this topic or idea, but AI is coming to eat the world. It's automating everything. You're asking like, what's harder, what's easier? What's easier is like all the things you used to have to do manually that are just being tick, tick, tick. They're just being eliminated by automation. Now, you got to be careful because like they're going to eliminate a lot of jobs. There's just no two ways about it. They really are. So what's left for you? And I do think that it really comes down to think about what it means to be human and what for the foreseeable future, AI will not be able to replicate, and that is going to be trusted human relationships. And it could be existing trusted human relationships. It could be new trust relationships that you haven't created them yet, but you're going to. But I think that is one of the most critical things. And trust is the word trust, capital T. There's a lot that goes into it. Do I trust your intentions? Do I trust your abilities, your competence? Do I trust your follow through? Do I trust all these different things? And so I think you, as a human, if you're in go-to-market, you're probably the number one thing that you should really be focused on is being a trusted person to all those people in your network that you don't know yet. That's going to be your value. And I think that's good. I think that's great because the world's going to be very efficient. And then the things that we are uniquely good at doing, building relationships, trusted relationships, and delivering in every way. I think that's where you should focus your effort and go to market right now.
I think you're right. In chaos, there's opportunity, right? When a lot of people don't see the path moving forward, there's opportunity to drive forward. Where technology provides opportunity, there's opportunity to turbocharge relationships, turbocharge connections, and y'all are doing that at Connect the Dots. Drew, where can people find you?
I'm on LinkedIn. You can look up Drew Sechrist. You can also hit me up at drew@ctd.ai. That's my email address. And then sometimes I'm in San Francisco or Miami or Belgrade, so maybe you'll see me in the street.
What's the ideal profile of customer for Connect the Dots?
There are two. So the one that we don't talk about a lot because we don't monetize on it yet, but here's your secret little invite, is individuals who want to manage their networks really well. You can set up a free Connect the Dots account. You can think of it like it's like a LinkedIn account, except that imagine if you reverse engineered your network by snarfing up all of your historical email communications with people. What if you could build a graph automatically just by clicking a button that's what Connect the Dots does. And it's really cool and it's free for life. The other one is our primary where we monetize is we sell to companies that have B2B sales teams so that they can do that collectively. They can look across their entire organization, see that your board member has a strong relationship with an investor who's got a strong relationship with the CFO that you want to sell to. So never cold call again, never cold email again, just activate your network where you've got these laser targeted paths to get into. If you're in a B2B organization and you want to be able to activate that across the entire company, then that's our ICP, but that's who we primarily sell to.
So thank you for that. Who's the typical heavy user in the corporate world? Is it the field rep? Is it the inside salesperson working on behalf of the field rep? Is it some combination of those?
The ones who know how to use this the best tend to be your most senior sellers, like your strategic or enterprise account executives. They're the ones who they know how to leverage relationships. They know how to leverage their executives and their board and their customers and their family and their friends in a way that makes sense, because there's a lot of nuance to activating that relationship. The ones that are there's a lot of potential there, but you got to be careful is like your SDRs who are early and they're afraid to ask the board, and they probably should be afraid because they're going to annoy the board if they ask for bad stuff. But there's a lot of potential there because they can see across all of the accounts that they want to get to, all of these great relationship paths that they could activate. We actually make that easier for them to not screw up. So we have approval rules built into Connect the Dots. So an SDR can say, I would like us to be able to get to the CFO via our board member, but the SDR can't ask the board member directly. It would have to go up to the chief of staff or maybe the CEO before the CEO approves, asking the board member to ask their investor friend to get the introduction to the CFO at that target company. And then, not surprisingly, we're automating a lot of this so that the SDR doesn't have to even initiate this. Actually just the AI brain will initiate it and say, okay, hey, chief of staff or CEO, you should leverage your board member for this introduction. And then when the AI is good enough at this, then the chief of staff or the CEO won't even have to approve it anymore because they'll just know that it's got all the nuance down. It knows when to ask and when not to ask. It knows how to ask. It knows who to ask, all of those things. That is the future.
That's very cool. Welcome to the future.
Yeah.
Drew, this has been a fabulous conversation. We should do this again soon. Check back in 2 weeks and see how much has changed.
Yeah, a lot for sure will have changed. Lee, it was a lot of fun. Thanks a lot. This was a great conversation with you.
Thanks, Drew. Likewise. Another deep dive into the topic of sales excellence and the performance mindset. If you found this conversation interesting, I would appreciate it if you would share the podcast with a coworker or two. And to explore this topic in more depth, send me a note via the contact form on podcast.thoughtsonselling.com or find some time for us to talk at meet.acellergroup.com. Thanks.